Imagine walking into a weathered wooden dacha banya, lifting an old plastic bucket in the corner of your garden shed, or opening a creaky wooden gate on a cool summer evening, only to freeze as you spot a strange, ghostly silhouette. There, moving across the rough planks with a slow, hypnotic rocking motion, is a tiny, perfectly oval body suspended on an impossible tangle of micro-thin, thread-like legs that look as delicate as human hair. Your immediate reaction might be a mixture of mild revulsion or a wave of childhood curiosity, recalling that cruel, widespread playground habit of trapping this fragile creature just to yank off one of its limbs and watch it rhythmically twitch on the ground like a tiny scythe. This casual disregard is reinforced by one of the most famous, terrifying urban legends shared across the globe, the persistent myth that the Harvestman possesses the single most deadly, concentrated venom on the entire planet, but is entirely harmless to humans only because its microscopic jaws are too weak to pierce our thick skin. We look at this balancing phantom with a sense of underlying dread, treating it as a highly toxic biological anomaly that just happens to be mechanically broken. But that sensationalized, terrifying narrative is a monumental, profoundly uneducated lie. Not even close. That slow-moving phantom swaying on your shed wall does not possess a single drop of venom. It lacks any predatory chemical glands whatsoever, and it is completely, pathologically incapable of inflicting harm on a human being. While you are staring at its delicate frame with deep suspicion or casual cruelty, this animal is actually operating as a hyper-tuned masterpiece of biological nanoengineering. Far from being a toxic threat, its entire structure is optimized to serve as a silent, exceptionally safe environmental caretaker for your property. The moment you strip away the myths and crack open the true physical science hidden within its long, vibrating limbs, your understanding of this backyard wanderer will be completely turned upside down. Think about that for a second. The exact creature that millions of people either fear as a deadly predator or casually mutilate for amusement is actually a completely defenseless, self-contained vacuum unit engineered to purge your garden plot of actual biological hazards without a single trace of venom. To completely rewrite this deeply hardwired backyard phobia, we have to strip away our visual assumptions and confront a staggering biological reality. The Harvestman is absolutely, fundamentally, not a spider. While our short-sighted human eyes lump anything with 8 long limbs into the exact same category of creepy crawlies, science recognizes this creature as belonging to a completely separate, independent order of arachnids known as Opiliones. It is an entirely different evolutionary branch. Visually, it functions less like a predatory web weaver and more like a bizarre miniature land crab or a tiny self-contained sphere suspended on high-performance structural strings. When you break down its anatomical blueprint, the differences between a true spider and a harvestman become glaringly obvious. A spider's body is strictly divided into 2 distinct, clear segments connected by a tiny waist, the cephalothorax and the abdomen. A harvestman, however, features a completely unified, monolithic structure. Its entire body is fused into a single, seamless oval shield, where the head, chest, and torso merge into one continuous biological hull. Furthermore, while a standard spider patrols its territory with an array of 8 complex eyes, the harvestman navigates its universe with just 2 single eyes positioned right on top of its head like a tiny, specialized periscope. But the most liberating, mind-blowing distinction of all is that this creature is entirely incapable of weaving a web. It possesses absolutely no silk glands, no spinning organs, and 0 architectural drive to clutter the corners of your dacha banya or garden shed with sticky traps. Because it lacks a permanent home base, a territory, or a silk safety net to retreat to, the harvestman lives out its existence as a perpetual, lonely drifter. It is a peaceful, wandering nomad that travels across the rough terrain of your property, searching exclusively for a cool, dark microclimate to rest out the heat of the afternoon sun. It did not creep into your wooden structure to launch a home invasion or lay a toxic trap. It is simply an independent, defenseless hitchhiker seeking temporary shelter in the shadows of your environment. However, committing to this permanent nomadic lifestyle without a web or a venomous defense mechanism requires an extraordinary anatomical sacrifice, forcing the harvestman to rely entirely on its long, vibrating limbs to read the physics of a hostile world, turning its day-to-day survival into a high-stakes evolutionary drama where every single step could cost it a vital piece of its sensory network. This nomadic lifestyle forces the harvestman to commit to an extraordinary, high-stakes anatomical design, turning its impossible, thread-like legs into its single most critical survival asset. For this creature, those long, hyperflexible limbs are absolutely not just a basic means of transportation. They function simultaneously as its eyes, its ears, its nose, and its primary sensory radar array. Because its actual vision is exceptionally limited, the Harvestman reads the physics of its entire universe through specialized microscopic receptors embedded directly into its leg tissue. Its second pair of legs is structurally the longest and operates exactly like a blind man's tactical walking cane. As it glides through your garden shed or banya, it continuously waves these two specialized limbs through the air and taps them against the wood, mapping out temperature drops, detecting humidity levels, and tasting chemical signals on the surface floorboards. But this extreme sensory engineering is anchored to an intensely dramatic, heartbreaking emergency defense mechanism known as autotomy. When a predatory bird, a large insect, or a thoughtless human hand aggressively grabs a harvestman by one of its hair-thin limbs, a built-in structural valve at the base of the hip instantly disconnects. The creature literally shoots off its own leg to survive. Once detached, a highly specialized cluster of internal pacemaking nerves inside the leg continues to fire rhythmically, forcing the isolated limb to frantically twitch, kick, and simulate life on the ground for up to 30 consecutive minutes. This bizarre, scythe-like movement is precisely where its traditional name, the harvestman or sinoquosits, originates. While the distracted predator is completely mesmerized by this twisting phantom leg, the harvestman uses its remaining limbs to rapidly flee into the safety of the dark baseboards. It is a brilliant, life-saving tactical decoy. However, this emergency escape route comes with a devastating permanent evolutionary price tag. Unlike crabs or spiders, which can slowly regenerate missing limbs during their molting cycles, a harvestman's severed leg is gone forever. It can never grow back. Every single time a cruel child or a panicked adult forcefully rips a limb off this harmless drifter, they are not just taking away a foot, they are permanently blinding, deafening, and crippling a highly sophisticated biological radar system. A harvestman that has lost several limbs is trapped in a quiet, confusing fog, struggling to read the chemical pathways of its environment. Yet it is precisely this hypersensitive, wide-reaching leg network that transforms this gentle traveler into an elite, heavy-duty cleaning unit the absolute second darkness falls over your yard. When the shadows finally stretch across your garden and the entire dacha plot transitions into a quiet, cool summer night, this fragile phantom drops its timid demeanor and steps into the role of an unyielding, industrial-strength environmental cleaner. This is where the harvestman's true, unmatched ecological power shifts into active duty. True spiders are strictly limited by their biology to a liquid-only diet. They must deliver a venomous strike, inject dissolving enzymes, and wait patiently to suck out a pre-digested soup. This rigid feeding method forces them to bypass massive amounts of organic clutter. The harvestman, however, completely shatters this predatory restriction. Lacking any venom, it relies instead on a pair of exceptionally stout, heavy-duty chewing mouthparts known as chelicerae. It is one of the very few arachnids structurally engineered to crush, slice, and consume solid material. As the sun sets, this creature glides over your compost piles, wooden fences, and foundation stones, operating exactly like an autonomous, high-powered outdoor vacuum unit. It processes a staggering, highly diverse menu that traditional predators refuse to touch, systematically grinding down microscopic plant spores, stubborn garden mildew, harmful aphids, tiny rotting slugs, and discarded bird droppings. But the absolute peak of its nighttime security campaign is its aggressive, non-stop eradication of ixodid ticks, the exact blood-sucking parasites that carry debilitating Lyme disease and encephalitis, posing a severe, direct threat to your family and your domestic pets. The harvestman hunts these dangerous vectors with chilling mechanical simplicity. It does not waste time chasing them across the turf or weaving an elaborate silk network to snare them. Instead, it utilizes its massive, stilt-like legs to simply tower directly over its target. It hovers its unified body oval right above the unsuspecting tick like an imposing mechanical harvester. From this supreme, elevated vantage point, it drops down with surgical precision, clamping its robust chelicerae around the parasite's hard shell. It methodically breaks down and pulverizes the tick's structural armor in a matter of seconds, executing a flawless predatory elimination that leaves absolutely no room for escape. This relentless, invisible decontamination sweep operates completely free of charge every single evening of the summer. A single harvestman quietly patrols your yard, consuming thousands of destructive agricultural pests and disease-carrying ticks annually, single-handedly maintaining the biological hygiene and perimeter safety of your garden plot while you rest safely inside. When you analyze your garden plot through this updated lens, the old childhood myths surrounding this leggy phantom completely collapse into the soil. A harvestman swaying gently on a wooden fence or tucked behind a water barrel is not a venomous threat waiting to bite you, a dirty pest, or a cheap toy designed for cruel playground experiments. It is your ultimate, highly specialized outdoor vacuum unit, and a completely harmless environmental caretaker. Where our irrational fears see a creepy, crawly monster and our casual disregard sees something to be swept away, evolution recognizes a masterpiece of nanoengineering, a gentle, wandering nomad that leaves your walls perfectly clean of messy cobwebs, avoids your skin at all costs, and spends its entire life cycle quietly purging your property of hazardous parasites. Your gut-level discomfort when watching its erratic, stilt-like movements is a natural reaction to its bizarre anatomy. But before you react with thoughtless violence, reach out to swat it away or pull at its delicate limbs to watch them dance on the floor. Look at the staggering ecological contract operating right in front of you. You are standing in front of a completely defenseless, self-cleaning cleanup unit that has abandoned the web-spinning lifestyle just to scour the damp corners of your dacha, grinding down destructive mildew, agricultural pests, and blood-sucking ticks without using a single drop of toxic human chemicals. The next time you open your garden shed or banya and spot this balancing wanderer rocking on the wall, drop the rolled-up paper and leave its hair-thin legs in peace. Suppress the primitive urge to mutilate or crush this silent roommate, and simply let this modest cosmic walker disappear into the shadows to continue its crucial midnight sanitation routine. If this intense, high-stakes deep dive completely flipped your script on the gentle phantoms patrolling your dacha, hit that like button and subscribe. Nature never engineers a wide-reaching radar system without a brilliant mechanical purpose. And sometimes, the fragile creature you casually brush aside is the exact shield keeping your personal sanctuary safe from the hidden dangers of the grass.